In Wednesday night's Champions League round of 16 fixtures, PSG will seek to overcome a 1-0 first leg defeat to Bayern Munich, while Tottenham Hotspur will seek to overcome a similar scoreline against AC Milan. For PSG, a record 13th Champions League tie against the reigning Bundesliga champions looks an even bigger task without Neymar, who will now miss the rest of the season through ligament injury. And for all their firepower, Christophe Galtier's side couldn't manage a single shot on target in the opening 45 minutes of the first leg, PSG's longest stretch without testing the keeper in Champions League history. That 1-0 loss on Valentine's Day was the French side's 5th defeat in all competitions, meaning PSG have now lost more games this season than they did across the entire 2021-22 campaign. Bayern Munich were the only team to win all of their group stage games, and they're unbeaten in their last 23 games at home. So Messi and Mbappe will have to pull off something pretty special to advance in the competition on Wednesday. Tottenham Hotspur should receive a boost from their return of manager Antonio Conte, but the stats don't favor the Premier League side as they prepare to welcome the Rossoneri to North London. Spurs have lost all of their last 4 Champions League knockout fixtures, as well as failing to find the net in each of those games. Conte's men are also on a 2-match losing streak after suffering defeats to Wolves and Sheffield United. And they'll be without centre-back Eric Dyer, who's unavailable due to suspension. Milan have won just one of their last 14 away games in the knockout stages, but this Spurs side are leaking goals, with Tottenham conceding first in all but 2 of their last 7 Champions League ties. Champions League round of 16 second legs are kicking off, and it's the big one. Bayern Munich versus PSG. Bayern Munich have the advantage here. 1 goal against PSG at the Parc des Princes. Kingsley Coman stepping up for the German side. But guys, this one has to be the blockbuster match, it seems like, of this round. Are you feeling confident for either side?
I do like Bayern's chances because they're at home, and I think that's such a big factor. And yeah, we take it for granted at times, but that does make such a big difference, especially in Bundesliga-style matches. Biggest thing for me, takeaway heading into this, is no Neymar, right? Last time they had Kylian Mbappe come off the bench, but it wasn't 100% Kylian Mbappe, and we saw his ability to change the game. Neymar can make that difference as well for PSG, and without him there, that's a huge loss for them, and they got to overcome a 1-0 deficit away from home without Neymar. You have to like Bayern's chances, right?
I think so, being at home especially, but yeah, Neymar's odd, isn't he? Because he's having a really good season, actually.
Oh, yeah.
He's involved in about 35 goals, all combined, in all competitions so far, yet people still criticize him. They're going to miss him, there's no doubt, for the remainder of the season as well. But like you mentioned, Mbappe came off the bench last time. He hadn't been playing for a while, coming off injury, and was just brilliant, dynamic, so dangerous, right? So you never rule out PSG, but it's around a 16. They've got some history in this round of not getting the job done.
Yeah.
I mean, there's enormous pressure on this team right now, enormous pressure, and Bayern Munich will understand that. So, yeah, I know Bayern are the slight favourites, and so they should be.
Slight, maybe more than slight. Minus 120 to PSG's plus 260. So
Well, I'm betting PSG for sure.
There you
Well,
values there, yeah.
Yeah, that's strange, I think, actually. It's only
It
1-0.
is, but they're very injured right now. Let me remind you, not just Neymar, but Kimpembe is also out for the season. Marquinhos picked up a knock over the weekend to Nantes, so he's not 100% if he does play. And there's also talks about whether Hakimi will be included in the squad with the allegations going on with him.
I can't imagine he would be.
Yeah,
I can't
that
either.
would- I mean, it's PSG though. Let's
Yeah,
call
that
it
is a
spade a
valid
spade.
point.
It's PSG,
Yeah.
and we know.
Are
that
you
there's some
questioning their
shit going
ethics
on.
and morals?
God forbid I do that. Let me ask you guys. I know you want to go somewhere else with this, but I saw a comment, Kylian Mbappe, saying that if things don't go right in the Champions League, that he's still loyal to PSG. He's gonna be super happy here. He loves PSG. He loves staying here.
Because he's so trustworthy.
Let's not talk about Mbappe, though. If PSG get knocked out by Bayern, does that affect Lionel Messi's future?
Yes, because he's coming back to Barcelona.
Oh,
like
Sarah, get off that.
No,
It's not happening.
this morning. I told you guys there were reports, but I think
What
it does.
reports?
You think it
I
does?
think,
Let me guess, from the Barcelona-based newspaper.
guys, a
How
girl
can they
can
afford him?
dream.
How can they
A
afford
girl
those
can
wages?
dream. I do think, though, it'll affect Messi. I think it'll affect Mbappe, both of them, honestly, because if you're not in contention, let's actually also talk about Galtier himself. if PSG get knocked out of the Champions League, is Gaultier gone? They have nothing left
What's
to
the
compete
definition of
for.
insanity? He's doing the same thing over and over again,
Yeah.
expecting a different outcome.
That-
Right? Like, you can't fire another
It's
coach.
not the coach at this point.
It's not the coach. It's the whole philosophy of the club.
But also,
It doesn't work in this case.
Yeah. But I mean, we've seen it happen so many times before, right? They're out of the Coupe de France. They'll be out of the Champions League, obviously, if they lose tomorrow. And, I mean, they've won Liga, but how many times have they won Liga with not doing anything else?
And that's why Mbappe, you talk about loyalty. I get he's saying that because he's getting paid handsomely to stay there, but he's just got the all-time PSG record this past week, right? Now's the time to leave and prove himself on a legitimate top 3 league in the world. He has to do that now, so I think he's leaving. He can say what he wants right now. He's moving on, I think, this summer.
The stakes may never be higher right
Yeah.
now for PSG than it is heading into this one.
Speaking about Mbappe and Messi, let's just go over their stats this season. 18 goals for Messi, 4 in the UCL, with 16 assists, 4 in the UCL, and Mbappe a whopping 30 goals, 7 in the UCL, and 8 assists, 3 in the UCL.
Who's second in Ligue 1, by the way?
Jonathan David,
That's right.
shout out. We had to get that in there.
All right, well, it's in there now, guys. No, but I think a lot of people are overlooking PSG right now because Bayern at home are fantastic. They have the one-up right now. They're not nearly as injured as Paris, but these two have been fantastic, and they're finding the back of the net. So do you guys think this is going to be a high-scoring game? Because Bayern at home, you know they're going to score.
Every time I want to say that this game is going to be a high-scoring game based on these two teams, I mean, look at the way that it played out last time. It was one of the most boring football matches that I've seen.
But
Both
this
teams,
is the second leg.
second legs can change things for sure. And you know the reason why it might be is because PSG is going to be going for it. They're going to be gambling, right? They have to take risks. They have to take chances way more than in the first leg, which may open the game up. And Bayern, we know we can hit teams on the counterattack as well. So it might be because of that. I'm just saying, like, every time we expect this to happen, it ends up being like a 0-0, 1-0 type of game. What do you think, Sharms?
Yeah, and bear in mind also the away goals rule is no longer, it's not important anymore, right? So it's changing some things up. So 2 goals is fine. I'm going to go for a barn burner in this one. Yeah,
Let's go.
PSG have
I
to go
want-
for it.
I'm
Yeah,
hoping for
I'm with
it.
you. A really good game. Bayern haven't been themselves this year, right? I mean, they're in the thick of a great race in the Bundesliga. They dropped behind Dortmund for a while. Dortmund's now, I think, just back on goal differential. So they got their eyes on another prize as well. So they're not quite vintage Bayern at home, especially defensively. So, yeah, I'm going to say we're talking a 3-2er. Maybe in this one. Maybe a 3-3 draw and see Bayern progress.
Well. Yeah, no, I honestly think this could go into extra time too.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah, no, why not? Just a quick stat really before we change into the next game. Not since the 2010-2011 season have Bayern Munich been eliminated in the UCL after winning the first match, and their last 15 out of 17 UCL games at the Allianz were wins. So the stats are in Bayern's favor. But let's move to Mikey's favorite game of the week. Tottenham Hotspur hosting AC Milan. Milan got the victory in the San Siro 3 weeks ago now. So the advantage is there. But Tottenham have been much better at home than they have been away. James, is this becoming too reliant on, are Tottenham becoming too reliant on Harry Kane this season? Okay, that's it. The show's over.
Segment
You know, Spurs, I was talking to Albert before this, right? Because he's obviously a big Spurs fan. It seems every week I watch Spurs and they lose and they're awful. But they're in 4th place in England, so at some point they were picking up points. Point, somehow. And they did have a lot of chances against Milan last time out, right? Couldn't find the goal in the end. They are deplorable to watch. There's not a worse team, I don't think, in Europe right now to watch than Spurs. But they have got Harry Kane. Yeah. They got some injury concerns. Lloris is out still. Bentancur's out. Basuma's out. Sessegnon's out as well. So there are some issues there. Son's not the same player he was. But Milan are hardly playing great football either. Real, back to reality for them from last year's Scudetto. They squeaked it 1-0 last time out. I think Spurs can do this, actually. It won't be pretty. It won't be pretty. A couple of goals to have it in them.
I actually like this game because last time we were watching this, I'm like, man, this game is way better than PSG Bayern right now. The pace that both these teams were attacking each other, I thought was really enjoyable. And now that there's a deficit that Tottenham have to overcome at home, I'm hoping that Antonio Conte is willing.
He's back, by the way, for this one.
There you go. So I'm hoping he's willing to widen his horizon here a little bit and not be so close-minded to making changes and adapting and maybe playing more of an attacking style of game because they need a goal.
Yeah. What's really interesting about these two teams is that I realized they are the same team. They are the spitting image of one another. They are both, Tottenham's in 4th, Milan's in 5th. They're both knocked out of the cups. They're both 18 points off the top. They're both miserable to watch. They are both fighting for the exact same things right now. So both of them fighting for basically at this point, the Champions League and European contention. Whoever gets knocked out, it's looking grim. I'm not confident in either side. Good thing for AC Milan, though, Rafael Leao and Krunic will be back, who were both suspended for their domestic match against Fiorentina. So they're going to be rested, which does actually make me think a little bit AC Milan might have the edge here.
The goalkeeper's back too. Mariano.
Yeah.
He's back. He's been out for a long time, and he was very, very important to their Scudetto last year.
And Rafael Leao is a baller. He's like World Cup, if you remember, he was supposed to be the big thing coming off the bench for Portugal. He never really lived up to those expectations. He's really rounded into form here with AC Milan to the point they want to do everything now to keep him. And their Premier League teams apparently circling over this player. And we're talking about lucrative numbers now with Rafael Leao, up to almost 100 million is sort of the price tag that's being floated around for him. But we saw he was such a problem for Tottenham in the first leg down that left flank. And he's going to be probably a key for Milan in this one, I think, as well. And he's a treat to watch right now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, finally, gentlemen, I need your predictions. James, up first.
So I said
two teams go through.
I said Spurs. I think
Okay.
they're going to find a way. Harry Kane, pretty good player. And what did I say? I said a barn burner, didn't I? In PSG Bayern.
You did.
PSG. Let's have some fun with this one.
I like it. I'm going to go complete opposite with you. I think Milan are going to be the team to go through. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, Albert. And I'm going to go Bayern
You don't
as
mean that.
well. No, I hate Spurs and I hate Albert.
Okay, I'll go right down the middle then. I'll take PSG and AC Milan. Can't go against my main man Messi, but it's these two I think can go either way. So it should be an exciting day of football. AC Milan and Tottenham and PSG and Bayern kick off Wednesday, round of 16 Champions League, second leg. 2 weeks into the MLS season, and a lot is going on. Let's look at the Canadian teams first. Mikey Singh joins me, Sara Poraria, and we're going to head to Mikey's favorite team first, actually, CF Montreal, if you all remember. Montreal having a bit of a slow start to the season. 2 losses, one to Miami, one to Austin. Maybe not the biggest losses, though, because we are talking about 2 competitive teams in the East. But they've had such a turnaround in their team, losing Kone, Johnston, Kamara, Mihailovic, their coach, Nancy. Is it that they're still in the process of kind of getting acclimated with one another?
Definitely. When you look at their games, you can tell that they haven't yet adapted to the way that Hernan Losada wants to play, which is, and we've talked about this, a completely contrasting style to Wilfred Nancy's, where Nancy liked to keep possession, liked to be pragmatic, slowly build up, whereas Hernan Losada is essentially a bunch of chaos football. So I do have questions about this team. They've yet to score a goal. For whatever reason, Mason Toye is yet to feature for this Montreal squad. They haven't really replaced Georgi Mihailovic up top. This team, while they finished second last year and did really well, they haven't shown me anything throughout the course of these first 2 matches that makes me believe that they can even get anywhere close to that. We see Sam Piette at times playing at center back for this squad. I guess when Joel Waterman gets back and he's healthy, it pushes Piette up further up the field. Maybe it helps them overall with their team, but they don't look like a good squad, and no goals so far in their first 2 matches. That's a concern. Yeah,
absolutely. I think we might see them get a little bit better, but I don't.
Yeah.
This is definitely a
on
rebuilding.
the road too, right? 2 matches on the road.
For sure. I think it is a rebuilding season for them, though. I don't think that we can expect that much from Montreal. I completely agree. But let's head out west. Vancouver Whitecaps also looking a little concerning. 2 losses as well. Real Salt Lake and San Jose. 2-1 both matches. But the biggest thing right now that they have to look forward to is the CONCACAF Champions League, where they are taking on Real España, mid-table Honduran team. What are you thinking going into this match? Because obviously Vancouver, not looking great, haven't been looking that good recently anyways, but we're talking about a mid-table, Honduran side. I don't know what's wrong with me today.
So, like, with this CONCACAF Champions League, we're, as a Toronto-based show, we've seen this play out over and over and over again. When you go in a deep run in Champions League, that carries over to your season. Not often do you see teams perform well in Champions League and also perform well in Major League Soccer. So the fact that they haven't gotten off to a good start in 2 games that I believe are actually very winnable. I know they got dominated by San Jose, but it was San Jose, and that's not a team they should be getting dominated by. 2 leads that they blew over the last 2 matches as well. Vanni Sartini, there is pressure here. I'm happy for that fan base and happy for that club that they do get to experience CONCACAF Champions League again after a pretty long drought away from the competition. They should win this tie against a mid-table Honduran team. But if they do go on a run here, I wonder how that affects their season. I am concerned about this group overall because they have not gotten out to the start that I think they needed to get out to.
Well, we see it happen in Europe all the time as well when you're competing in so many different competitions. Usually it kind of gets to a point where the manager says, okay, like this is what we're going to favor. If we can't, if they're not in contention to win anything here, then okay, let's try and go for a run there. So it could be telling maybe in the next couple games. We'll see what happens. We'll get to TFC shortly, but first let's head to the States and talk about St. Louis and their home opener. Roll the clip. So that was St. Louis this past weekend with their inaugural home opener. 22,423 fans, Mikey. They sold it out, and the vibes were immaculate.
Did that not feel like a proper football experience?
That is what football is. That's what it should look like week in and week out.
And that's crazy. It's St. Louis, and I know that they do have a lot of history when it comes to American soccer, but you're telling me, sitting here in Toronto, St. Louis has that type of atmosphere? That part gets me excited about Major League Soccer, because one of the biggest things I think that separates MLS from European teams and clubs is the atmosphere and the vibes that fans bring. And I think that right there is the closest thing that we've seen to a proper European atmosphere, and that's really exciting. It also helps that, hey, their team, surprise, surprise, they're playing pretty well right now. 2 wins from their first 2 matches. There's only been a handful of teams that have done that.
4th expansion team in MLS history to do it.
There you go. There you go. And they've scored 3 goals in each of their first 2 matches, which no expansion team has done before. TFC, if you remember, they had to wait till like their 5th, 6th, 7th match until Danny Dichio finally put in TFC's first ever goal. So the fact that they've gone off to this start is really exciting, and apparently, about 80% of teams who get off to 2-0 starts in an MLS season make the playoffs 80% of the time. So they're one of the best stories right now, I think, to watch. The vibes will be there. It should be a fun season for St. Louis.
Yeah, and it's also great because they filled out their stadium, but we also know there's several more stadiums of MLS teams that are quite bigger, actually. So it's just, the potential is there. We know TFC is 30,000. So, I mean, it can look, if it's full with, great fans, it really can give us that European atmosphere. So hopefully they're leading the way. I loved it, though.
The vibes were there.
Yeah, it made me happy. Let's talk about Miami really quickly. They've also gone 2 games unbeaten, opening their season, looking pretty good, Mr. Beckham.
Surprise, surprise. Like, this Inter Miami team it's a team that the second half of last year, they started to turn the page, and they had a core going forward, which really led them on a playoff push. It didn't go quite the way they wanted in the postseason. Gonzalo Higuain decides to retire. But in comes Joseph Martinez, their new striker, their new number 9, a former league MVP who has gone through some injury battles. He had some off-field issues, going head-to-head with Gonzalo Pineda at Atlanta United. But they bring him in, and he's not a designated player for this team. And the fact that they've gone off to a 2-0 start against the 2 teams that finished first and second in the Eastern Conference last year, that's a statement by Inter Miami. And we know the potential this team has. Every year they take huge, massive swings. The quality of players they brought in, obviously the Higuains, the Matuidis, they try and get the best of the best. Miami wants to establish themselves as an elite team. The results haven't followed. This season, it looks like they're on the verge of making that happen. And they're going to be an interesting story to watch because, of course, it's Messi watch over there, right? If they can find a way to add a player like Messi in the summer, come on.
I'd like to let everyone know that Messi is in talks with Barcelona. I saw the report just this morning. No, but you know what? I will say Miami, being the team that they are with the stature they have, with somebody like David Beckham behind them. Not to mention something like being in a hot climate, it really does affect the footballers. When have South Americans coming, they don't want to be up in New York. They don't want to be in rainy Vancouver. They want to be somewhere where it's hot and their families can, enjoy it.
And a strong Latino community too.
Exactly. So I do completely see that even if it's not their year this year, even though they're looking like they're having a great start, but this will be a team to watch over the next 5 years. I think we are going to see this team explode.
Yeah, they have the potential. Phil Neville's at the helm there too. They have big names and big potential they got to live up to.
Yeah. Finally, let's look at TFC. Mikey, you were at training earlier today, and I heard you spotted a young Italian on the pitch.
Lorenzo Insigne, that's the biggest storyline, obviously, with this TFC team that we're going to be watching for. Today at training, Lorenzo Insigne walks out, as you see on the video there. The vibes are great. The mood was very great. He was joking around with staff. He was joking around with Federico Bernardeschi. He seemed like he was in a very positive mood in this training. And what I can tell people is that he went through the majority of training there training with the squad. So he was back training with the team. It probably wasn't 100%. He was probably held back in certain areas. But the fact that this is Tuesday is a really positive sign. And just from my experience, we're not going to know for sure until we speak to Bob Bradley on Friday. But from my experience covering this team, seeing what Lorenzo Insigne did today at training, all signs point to Lorenzo Insigne being available in some capacity for Saturday's home opener. But we will get confirmation on that towards the end of the week.
It would be very crucial for Toronto fans to have the big name Insigne or Bernardeschi, or rather both, on the pitch at BMO Field for their home opener. So we will keep you posted and hope for the best.